Hello. We're out here in beautiful San Jose, Costa Rica. I'm currently getting burnt to a crisp, so I might be a tomato by the end of this. We'll see what happens. I was on my way to work this morning, and the guy called me on the bus and he said, "We can't do your training today." So I figured I was halfway here anyway. Why don't we go all the way? I'll pull the phone out. I'll show you guys around a little bit. We can explore where I first landed when I got here. Show you the city, and we'll see where the day takes us. So you can see right behind me here, we have a train track in the middle of the city. So imagine you're at home and you're sitting in your bed and you hear this for a nice early morning alarm clock. That's what actually happens here. If you're anything like me, you probably thought, Costa Rica, second world country, how bad is it? What could it possibly have here? Believe it or not, they're really developed actually. They don't have a whole lot of things that you wouldn't expect. For example, got a McDonald's. They do have fast food shops here. Some of the stuff has been westernized. Most of the stores are what we call sodas. They're little tiny restaurants essentially. They do have some official big restaurants here, but the majority of this stuff is really just mom and pop shops. Alright, I found a spot to hide from the sun for a minute so we can chat freely here. I am currently, where am I? On the street where I first landed here, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. I'm going to show you the crazy little ghetto area that I landed in unintentionally when I first arrived. All the houses here are really strange. They've all got cages on the outside and they're all locked up like you're in the ghetto, but you're not really in the ghetto. It just looks and kind of feels that way. But people here are more concerned about the feeling of safety than they are the aesthetic of how it makes your home look, which is kind of a weird thing because in the West, obviously, we care about safety, but we don't want cages outside our house. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then I'm going to show you the actual house that I landed in and some of the beautiful backdrops here, which, wait till you see this. Literally a free-for-all. Almost every single house in this entire country, at least where I've been so far, has one of these cages on the front. So to us foreigners, it looks like you're in the ghetto and it's very bizarre, but for these people, everything's just another day. And a lot of these things have dogs behind the cages as well, and they're all rabid and they go crazy when you walk by. So you'll have a few heart attacks if you're not prepared. Dog having a tough day. Alright, so we just got to the end of the street. I'm going to show you guys the house. Inside it's alright, but outside it's not a good look. So I get here at like 11:30 at night. Everything's closed down, right? Because you can't actually drive anywhere or do anything in Costa Rica after 9 o'clock. So the streets are dead, everything's quiet, nothing's open. It's almost pitch black, barely any street lights, and I land here. And it was just a terrifying feeling, man. Like I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't understand that this is a normal thing. So I'm thinking people are going to rob me, right? I'm thinking I'm going to get jacked by the cab driver or whatever. Who knows what's going to happen? Thankfully, nothing happened. One thing people don't understand about Costa Rica, especially in this area that I'm in, is you are surrounded by mountainous hills in every direction. So you can probably see some in the background behind me here. So you can probably see some in the background behind me here.
So you can probably see some in the background behind me here.
And I'm going to show you what it looks like from my view in front of me. Ready for this? Despite all this beauty that you see behind me here, this place isn't perfect. I know, it's crazy, right? It's its own utopia with its own set of problems, and I'm going to go through some of these problems with you now, so hopefully you can avoid some of the headaches that I had to deal with when I first got here. All right, let's talk about the very first thing. Rainy season. Rain, and more rain. It's very easy to forget that in Costa Rica, you're living in a rainforest, because most of the time when we look at pictures or we're watching videos, we think clear sky, sun's out, beautiful lush scenery all the time. And while there is that, it's not all the time. It's only for about 6 months of the year. The other 6 months is what we call rainy season, and it lives up to its name. I'm not talking regular rain. I'm talking giant, powerful raindrops that can go anywhere from 2 to 4, sometimes even 6 or 8 hours long. You have to operate with an umbrella here. It's impossible not to. If you plan to bring your cell phone, your laptop, any kind of electronics with you anywhere, you are going to get soaked without an umbrella. So this is something you have to account for when you come here. You would be operating with an umbrella from about May till November every year, and you will have to plan your day accordingly. The second thing to keep in mind is that the traffic here is loco. Most places in the world have their own sets of crazy traffic. So for example, in Toronto, where I'm from, traffic is crazy, for sure. It's its own little type of crazy. You have to be super aggressive. You can't just be passive when you're driving through the city or you're gonna get run over. Here, I'll just show you. A three-way absolute clusterfuck. This is the biggest thing that stood out to me in terms of underdevelopment in this country. The traffic system as a whole just isn't really fleshed out. The lights are just kind of wherever a lot of the time, hanging indiscriminately. Some of the times there's lines on the road saying alto, some of the times there isn't. Traffic just kind of honestly does what it wants. Most people here will tell you, as a pedestrian, you have to be careful. Most of the drivers just don't have any regard for your safety or honestly your life. So that's another thing. Depending on what part of the world you're from, you might be used to crazy traffic, but if you're from Western version of crazy traffic, coming here is going to be a bit of a shock. If you're not used to looking over your shoulder or triple checking both ways before you cross the road, practice that, because you might die if you don't. Now, let's talk about the third thing. I saved the best for last because this one for me is actually the hardest thing that I've had to deal with since I got here. And the reason for that is because by nature, I'm a very quiet person. I like to be introverted, I like my peace, and I like my quiet time. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of that here. Now granted, my sample size for this thesis is very small because I've only really lived in 2 places and they're both in very close proximity to each other, and they're basically the city or just outside of it. I haven't gone to the beach yet, I haven't gone to the more mountainous regions in the other provinces, so it might be a little bit different there. But so far, the biggest issue has been the dogs, because the dogs here aren't really trained in the same way that they are in the West. This is a really big deal. If you're anything like me and you like your peace and quiet and you're used to people controlling the way that their animals act, they don't do that here. In fact, they really just let the dogs do whatever they want, to be honest. The dogs can run up to people and bark nonstop. The dogs will start barking at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. They'll bark indiscriminately, they'll bark at anything, and nobody stops them. So you can just get rather violently woken up at an ungodly hour in the morning, and you're kind of expecting someone to do something like they would in the West, but here they just don't. And it doesn't really sound like much to some people, but again, if you're anything like me and you like your peace and quiet, it might be difficult for you to adapt. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the houses and the safety.
People sleep better when their dogs are barking because in their mind it means that there's someone outside that's being scared away and now they're not going to break into the house. I'm not saying that makes sense or it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the way they think here. So for you and I, if we're from the West, we think, okay, dog's barking, my neighbor's gonna get up and he's gonna shut that dog up or else I'm going to shoot the dog. Not literally, I'm kidding. Sometimes though you think about it. But here, the neighbors just don't care. They'll just let the dogs bark until the dogs are finished barking. So it doesn't really matter if you need to get up at 4 in the morning and the dog wakes you up at 3, or if you have to have a nap because you've got some nighttime classes to teach and the dog wakes you up at 11 o'clock a.m. because it doesn't stop barking for an hour straight. You can tell these experiences have come firsthand. There's just nothing that you can do. So it's tricky because you're used to people having or maintaining a certain level of what you would call respect. Respect for your environment, respect for your neighbors. And I'm not saying that people themselves are disrespectful, but what I am saying is that culturally, that concept of maintaining quiet or a respectful environment in a quiet sense does not really apply to this culture as it does to the West. So that is something you're going to have to be prepared for if you come here. You will be woken up, depending on the area that you live in. You will be completely powerless to stop it. Nobody will stop it, and you just have to eat it. So, yeah.
Alright, we're currently on our way to Multiplaza. This is like the Costa Rican version of the big mall. As you can see, it's raining like crazy, so I didn't actually get burned. I think. We'll find out tomorrow. And we'll take you guys around the mall. We'll show you what's inside. Grab a couple things, and then we'll see what else happens. Background, that's rain. You guys can see it's a legit mall. They've got shops like they do in the West. They've got food, they've got shoes, they've got products. We're gonna go find some stuff for school and then we'll check back in. And here we are, the fruit of my labor. A couple hours work and a lot of material later, we are officially a teacher. So I'm gonna wrap the vlog up here. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and we will see you guys on the next video. Peace.